When working with a data set last week, I remember a trick that I often use when analyzing large data sets in Python that I thought might be good to record a video about. The particular data set that I have here is a zip file that contains somewhere in the order of 100,000 or more files, and it's about a gigabyte in size compressed. So I really don't like uncompressing this thing if I don't have to. Having directories with 100,000 files in them can be problematic on different computers, particularly if you're dealing with a network file system like those on supercomputers, and they're just unwieldy to transfer between different computers. So what I want to do at all cost is never have to unload this zip file into all of its constituent files. You can do that and still work with the file in Python thanks to Python's zipfile library. So just to show you a little bit about the utilities, I'm going to show you some code here that I wrote, which goes through this large data file and processes only the particular subsets within it that I want. So this zip file here contains somewhere around 270,000 of these files where I have both the same data in CIF format and JSON format. I only want to deal with the JSON. So I wrote this bit of software here that opens up that file, writes the information I need to process the data within those JSON into a format that I can work with more easily, and then saves that to disk as a compressed file. So the overall code here for actually reading from the zip file is very straightforward. And we'll talk through the individual details, but I'll give you the high-level picture now. Basically involves opening that zip file as a Python zip file object, and then looping through the contents. When you loop through the contents here, it's going to give you an information object, which allows you to pull out or read that information from the zip file, and then work with it one file at a time. That's the overall picture. Let's talk about the basic components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all the way up to this file in the notebook, and then we're going to show you what that zip file looks like. So we're going to open up our zip. And according to the Python documentation that I'll link you, it's got one key function that you'll need to know, which is get all of the files within here. So each of these ZipInfo objects that I've received contains the information I need to understand what this file is, and then the record information that will allow the zip file library in Python to go back and read that data. Now, so you can see here, I've got one of my first JSON files. I can see that it's about 27 kilobytes, compressed down to about 4. So this is great. As I was saying earlier, I like that the zip file is so very well compressed. Save the space on my hard drive. Great when I've got a lot of projects going on. So once you have these zip file objects, we'll take one. So we'll just take this first one here. Once you have it, you can take that file information and say, pull out the contents. So if I'm going to do that, I read, let's see, my file info, and that pulls out the data from my file. Got everything I need here, which I know how to parse. Big file, should have just printed the only top. You'll note that it's in byte format, so I can take it and I can, is it decode or encode? I often get them flipped. Let's try. Yep, I got it backwards. Decode. And we'll print the first 32 characters. Look, I can take the information and now it's just a string. So this is one way that you can deal with the file. You can also open it as a file pointer. So I believe that is the extract option. Now let me go to the documentation. I didn't look this over. Nope, that isn't it. Did not practice these. And as I mentioned for the introduction to this channel, you can see that these are indeed things I do without practice. No, I know there's one option. Oh, it's open. I can just take the file here and I can do fp.read and get my first 45 bytes. Oh, I need to print it. Yep. So you can work with it this way too. Let's even go to the extent of, let's make it 9 bytes. So text. Okay. Well, it shows what I know. I'll have to, and now I've got it as a string and not a byte object. So that's the basics of it. Just to recap, what you do is you can take this path to your zip file, you list out its contents, you pick one of the objects within here, that gives you a file info object, which allows you to read from the zip file one at a time and without ever decompressing the entire zip file at once. So that basically wraps up everything there is to working with zip files, particularly, well, reading from them at least. Well, here I talked about zip files. There's a very similar library within Python's standard modules that works with tar files, which are a cousin to zip files. Yet another way of storing many files together, compressed as a single file. And those even work very similar ways, even though the names of the functions are frustratingly just slightly different. Instead of getInfo or listinfo, it's getMembers, which creates a file object that you can give to the tar file object and read from the data. So instead of open, it's extract file. Very similar concepts. Both of these are designed in a way that runs very efficiently. I've never really had to consider ways of making reading from these files faster. It does a good job of it without much optimization on my end. So that is all we have for today. Just to recap, what we've done is shown how to keep your data inside of a zip file, yet be able to read from those individual components, which you do by iterating over all of the info objects, which we'll show you one of those again, just to cement things home, that tells Python where to go look for the file contents. Once you have those info objects, you can give it to the zip file object to read the bytes out of it. So that's all for today. Hope you're having a good time wherever you are, and we will talk to you later.